We'll get started here in just about a minute. Make sure everyone's able to join. All right, well, hello and welcome to the Circular Bioeconomy Systems Member Hour series. Today's talk is on being a catalyst for the transformation of our food systems. And we have Dr. Georg Schirrmacher of EIT Food with us today. My name is Alicia Modenbach and I will be your host. So as a background, ASABE member hours were started in 2021 as a mechanism for our members to learn, connect, and grow. In a few minutes, we will get things rolling, but first, some quick session ground rules and speaker introductions. So for today's hour, a few general ground rules. Please keep your audio on mute during the presentation. If you have any questions, you can place them in the chat during the presentation. And we'll also be opening up for verbal questions during the question and answer segment at the end of the presentation. This meeting will be recorded and available for later viewing on the ASABE website. So today we'll be hearing from Dr. Georg Schirrmacher. He is Managing Director of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, or EIT Food, co-location center central in Munich, Freising, Germany. EIT Food is the world's largest and most dynamic agri-food innovation community. Dr. Schirrmacher is responsible for EIT Food's West region. Since 2021, Georg Schirrmacher is a member of the Joint Programming Initiative on Agriculture, Food Security, and Climate Change, the Stakeholder Advisory Board, which promotes the integration and alignment of national research resources under a common strategy to address the diverse challenges in agriculture, food security, and climate change. Before joining EIT Food, Dr. Schirrmacher was head of science network management at Clariant, a globally leading specialty chemicals company. He was also the chairman of the BIC Programming Working Group, an industrial working group about bioeconomy in Brussels, representing the private sector in a public-private partnership that is one of the pillars of European bioeconomy strategy. So Dr. Schirrmacher, I appreciate you joining us today, and I'm excited to spend this hour learning more about EIT Food and their work in transforming our food systems. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Schirrmacher.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Alicia, for this kind introduction, and thank you very much for the opportunity to join your webinars and tell you something about the EIT Food and what we do in Europe to improve the food system. And as you see on the title of the slide, that's my first plea. So we need to work together. You will hear this more often than once, and there will be other things that I will repeat. For me, it's super important that we really start leaving our castles and work together on the huge challenges that we all have. So cooperation is key here. I will start my presentation now with a short video, which really shows in a condensed and pretty funny but serious way what EIT Food is all about.
We need to future-proof our food. Why? Because the world population is expected to reach almost 10 billion by 2050. And currently, we are facing many demographic, environmental, and health issues that are threatening the future of our food system. Today, almost 1 billion people go hungry globally, while twice that number eat too much of the wrong foods. Food production accounts for up to 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions, 40% of global land use, and 70% of freshwater consumption. To make matters worse, we waste almost a third of our food globally. We believe that we are all responsible for and connected to the food that we eat, so we all need to work together to improve it. At EIT Food, we're building an inclusive and innovative community where the consumer is actively involved, so that we can deliver an innovative food sector that produces healthy and sustainable food, trusted by society. And how are we doing this? By creating and scaling up agri-food startups, by developing talents and leaders to transform the food system, by launching new innovative products and ingredients to deliver healthier and more sustainable food, and engaging the public so that they can become the agents of change in the food system. Let's build the future of food together. If you'd like to learn more about how we are transforming the food system, our projects, and to get involved, then please go to www.eitfood.eu. Look forward to seeing you there.
I really love this video because it's condensing all the challenges, it's condensing all the super important things that we need to improve, and it shows solutions as well. And you are all invited to go to our webpage, www.eitfood.eu. It's really a good one. You can maneuver really nicely about all the things that we do, and all the projects, for example, that we do can be found on our webpage. And it gives you an easy access to the things that I've been showing today. And maybe you would be interested to learn more afterwards, hopefully. We've identified 3 major points when we were talking to our partners. It's more than 350 partners in 2022 that are working together towards the same goals, towards the same objectives. So it's a shared responsibility, and this is the major USP that we have, is our partner network. And we see that on the left-hand side, healthier life through food is a key element of the transformation of the food system. When we really want to make a really material difference, I think the health-adjusted life years, so the years that enable you for a better and healthier living at the most probably at the end of your hopefully long life that you have, we need to enable consumers to make better choices. They need really access to healthier products and information that's actionable. So transparency, for example, and information that makes them really able to do the choice that enables them then again to have better and more health-adjusted life years. Then the net zero food systems is super important. I think this is a no-brainer. This is all across the bioeconomy as well. It goes to circularity, and when we want to be closer to a net zero food system, I think CO2 equivalent reduction is one of the keys. And we see that tackling CO2 hotspots is important, and we have identified one major element, that's the reduction of the footprint of protein production. So proteins are important as a source for all of us. So we eat 3 times a day, and we should eat proteins. And I think especially in Europe, there's countries where meat consumption goes down, but worldwide, the meat consumption is rising 2 to 4% every year. And that's why we call this protein diversification, which is important to have alternatives on the market. And this is one of the key elements of EIT Food, to bring innovations faster to the market. So we catalyze the transformation. We are helping our partners to working together and to bring products faster on the markets that can be alternatives. And we create therefore new markets, for example, for food waste. So waste stream and residual streams are important for circularity and for net zero food systems. And on the right-hand side, you see that the orange part, really transparency, resilience, and a fair approach to a food system is super important, because this is going to be a trusted environment in the future. And we see benefits of a resilient, trusted food supply chain when people experience greater food security and safety through a widespread digitally enabled food supply. So we need transparency in the supply chain, and this is I think you cannot do alone, because the supply starts on the field and ends at people eating food. So we need transparency across the whole value chain. And with our community, we are addressing these challenges and sustainability and climate change. You see the colors written down there. Non-communicable diseases and poor nutrition is to be solved. And consumer trust, scarcity, and transparency is really addressed through this mission-led approach. So everyone, we work together, and everyone is partner of our network, is really behind these missions, and we all work together with distinct activities to solve this in a mission-led approach. Now you see the landscape where we're in. You see Europe on the right-hand side, and we have 5 regional offices, and we cover all European countries, EU 27, plus I think 10 to 15 countries more. For example, we are working together with Israel, we are working together with Turkey, for example, where we have hubs and where we really have activities, because innovation may start in Europe or may start even in Germany, where I sit, close to Munich, but markets don't end in Munich. They don't end in Germany. Innovation and technology is to be seen worldwide. That's our attitude. And we accelerate innovation so that we really have a future-fit system that produces healthy and sustainable food for all. So it's really cooperative, it's driven for us. And as we are the world's largest open innovation community, we connect. We connect people right across the food system, and we invest in projects, organizations, and individuals. You will see that later on how we do that share our goals for a healthy and sustainable food system. And we see in Europe, for example, that the attitude of the players in the food system, it changes drastically. They have figured out now, and this is maybe one example that is more by hand, is that this corporate social responsibility approaches that companies have, and the environment, social, and governance approaches that have really now pay out into ROI. It was before this change in the mindset, it was all on company level. So companies were doing that, and now it has reached the product level. So it really is a benefit. If you are now entering the food system, you will have in this transformational phase, you will have an advantage in the market, because regulation changes markets, and already we see benefits of companies that join now and take this serious. We believe that the system needs to be inclusive, so all that are involved need to work together, and we enable the people and places like regions that we work with, municipalities, towns, to participate, and in the same way benefit. And this is essential because the food system is for everyone. And we want to build an innovative and resilient food system. So we say innovation is the solution, is one of the solutions. Innovation can help us transform the food system along the missions that we have. And at the end, the biggest goal is to really create healthier societies and a healthier planet. So this is not a small step. We want really to improve something. That's why we are there. And I'm sorry, I'm going to transport a lot of information, but I think you will have the opportunity to have access to the slides afterwards, and we are all available for questions. We are active in 4 areas. Funded by the European Union, we do activities in education. We do activities in innovation. We have an own entrepreneurship approach, and we have public engagement as an extra pillar. And that's the second thing I really want to point out. If you do good things, if you have potential projects that are doing good for the food system, talk about them, communicate them, and talk about them jointly, so that you join forces, so that the message reaches the target groups you want to reach. And doing that enables then the next steps. It does, the integration will follow of the people you talk to, and then it's an almost 360 approach that we want to have. In the area of education, I did bring 3 examples. I won't go into detail. They can all be found on the webpage. So we attract, develop, and empower talent that is needed now with new skills that are needed to transform the food system. And for example, we have the Global Food Venture Program. Let me try to find my laser pointer. Here we go. So we have the Global Food Venture Program where PhD students together with industry develop solutions that can be found later in the market. So it's a cooperation between industry and universities. And the challenges are defined by the industry, and PhD students, for example, help the industry solve their problem, which then again is along emissions and is an alternative on the market. Focus on farmers is the next project I want to point out. It's about technology adaptation for farmers. You know, they're mostly in rural areas. They have a lot of machinery, and technology is really developing fast. And technology adaptation is really a topic that helps us to improve the food system. When we started, we thought, okay, let's define a KPI. We want to reach 500 farmers. At the end, we reached 6,000 farmers with this program. So this is really a success, and they really love it because now they can exchange with their peers. That's another thing. Try to do peer-to-peer exchange, bring people together in environments which are safe, which can then lead to an exchange where we all benefit from this exchange. And then we have online platforms where you can massive open online courses for free or specific open online courses for professionals. So it's food for thought for everyone. In the innovation area, we foster collaboration and we develop innovative technologies for products and services. And one of the projects that are really amazingly for me at the most is the project called Sea Change. And that's a project where beef production is followed on with cattle farming, and macroalgae from the sea are fed to the kettles. And two things happen: the meat quality rises and the methane emissions go down. I've never thought that macroalgae can be an alternative for feed, but it is. So that's one that's going to be in the market. It's not yet there. Then from waste to farm, insect production as protein source on the farm, which is then used for poultry farming, for example, and the leftovers can then be going back to feed the insects again. So this is a closed circle protein alternative. And then digital twin management, to have really digital twins all along the food value chain. It's a project where we do together with Siemens and with Kempten BI, Hungarian think tank, really successful because then you aim for transparency. Entrepreneurship, I will go deeper in a few minutes. So we support really innovative and impactful entrepreneurs and startups to deliver new food systems innovations across Europe. And we foster female entrepreneurship because there's too less females founders. I think it's only 1 to 2% in total in Europe, which are female founders in the food system. And we are going for community nutrition. Delicious Data, for example, is a startup having solutions for community nutrition. And we have to redefine how meat is produced. And that's a startup that really has a 3D printed meat alternative in the development. In the public engagement area, we have one of the largest conferences in Europe, in Brussels. It's called Future of Food. And this conference reaches out to politicians. It's 400 to 600 participants, really selected stakeholders. And then people talk to each other and share information. That's one of the major goals. And we have an online platform called foodunfolded.com, if you want to look into it. This is our magazine type of information source where you can dig deeper when you want to know where's the origin of the food. So where does bread come from? What's the origin of bread? What beer brewing, for example? When was this invented? Some kind of information where the consumer can read at night as a distraction, for example, and delivering information which is useful. And we work a lot with kids in the annual food agenda, so they come together and exchange their ideas with us together as well. A few activities, what we do in Germany, for example, and this is a federal project called ACT in EIT Food. So we do get not only money from the European Union, we do get money from the Federal Ministry of Education and Research as well. It was launched in 2020. And we have the honor to develop a system where we support the creation and the expansion of startups that will help future-proof to make the Germany's food system future-proof and to create a new innovation landscape. So bring people together that don't speak the same language. For example, small and medium enterprises and startups. They like each other, they want to work with each other, but they don't speak the same language. You need to have a catalyst like EIT Food. And this is maybe something to remember as well. If you want to change something, you need someone to put energy into the system. You need to have someone that is always there and available, connecting the dots and feeding the system with energy. And this was super successful, but it took us 3.5 years to go from Munich to Hamburg. So it takes time to build up ecosystems, but now the peer-to-peer environment is super successful. And then the more hands-on example, smart and sustainable weeding. So a German startup, Paltec, has automated weed control in grasslands, solving a major issue for organic dairy farmers. We will come to organic parts later on during the Farm to Fork and Green Deal. We want to have more organic dairy farmers, more organic farmers in Europe, and this helps them to grow their business as well, and they're part of one of our entrepreneurship programs. So Paltec is one of our startups that helps to go along the missions and to go along the regulations like the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork and make this happen, because sometimes technologies are not yet ready when regulations are out. 2 examples from Spain. So you see that in Germany, in the northern part of Germany, in the southern part of Europe, like Spain, the needs are different. So we had a lot of rain in the last 2 to 3 months, but in Spain, it didn't rain at all. And this is not an up-to-date picture, but this problem, water scarcity, is existing longer, and we are doing special projects to improve regions' water resources. And the water scarcity project carries out a series of activities supporting scale-ups and SMEs. You see this element always comes back. It's a working together with industry, universities, RTOs, and startups, so that we call this knowledge triangle, that these players work together, and we identified if these 3 work together, innovation goes faster. So the adoption of a water saving culture in Europe is super, super important. I think you have regions in America where it is as bad as in the southern part of Europe. And then edible food coatings, it's a Spanish startup called Bio2Code, part of the seedbed program as well. It's really a food coating that is edible. It's made from natural resources, and it extends the shelf life, and it's colorless, flavorless, and it's not only the shelf life, it's as well the price can go down because you don't have to have the environment of cooling or whatever needed to place that in the supermarket. So another example of how we try to solve things for food system transformation. Now we go to our community. You see a lot of logos. You don't need to worry about the nitty-gritty details. There's Siemens, there is Agropol, there's still a lot of huge players. John Deere is there, by the way, as well, as an American company with the German entity. And what I want to point out is the 3 elements of the knowledge triangle that you see here. You see industry partners, you see research centers and universities, like Fraunhofer, for example. You see a lot of startups that are part of our programs, and they all work on EIT together. And this gives the community the opportunity to work together in the knowledge triangle, as we say. And when these partners exchange, there's a lot of energy in innovation activities, and input can come from either side. So the industry can push for it, the research centers can push for it, other startups. In the best case, they all have the same goal along the missions of EIT Food, and then we have the opportunity to give them access to funding through an open innovation process. They can apply, and then we can de-risk their innovation projects, for example. That's another part of EIT Food. So leave the castles, work together with others, and try things that you may not try alone, but maybe with the input of a startup or with an industry partner, you're eager to do so. And if the funding source is available as well, don't hesitate, go for it. This knowledge triangle really, really works. To give you an impression what we have reached so far, and that's numbers solely for 2021. So we did invest more than 50 million euros directly in financial support in grants and investments. So that's mainly project-based activities. And we are now developing EIT Food further away from point-based solutions. So there will always be bilateral collaboration. That's super important. There will always be on-point solutions that projects lead 1 to 3 years. You have a point solution, that's good. But we believe, in addition, you need to be more systemic. So we're going to go for systemic innovations where all the partners work together on a common goal. And next to this 50 million that we have invested directly to support project grants and investments, we have invested 400 million indirectly. So our startups, with the help of us, had access to more than 400 million euros to investment. And when I say talk to each other and exchange information, we had more than 8.8 million engagements in the social media. It's the EIT Food and Food Unfolded, the digital channels that we have. And in 2022, the numbers in this green area can always be doubled. I think it's close to 16 million. So people are interested. And that's maybe another message that one could transport. If you tell people things that are transparent, that are really true, then people follow, and people really like to read things that they can really think through and have a case until the bottom. More than 250 organizations. We have an own graduate program where we have 150 graduates. So it's the APFL, for example, and the University of Hohenheim and other universities that together with EIT Food have done this graduate program. And then it's interesting that at the moment, we have 15 innovations launched on the market. This may not seem many at the moment, but it takes time to go to the market. And we expect more than 190 to come to the market in the next 2 years. And until end of 2025, we expect more than 500 innovations. So it has a lag phase for sure. We started in 2018, and then we developed EIT Food as an organization. Then we work together with our institutions that are part, with our members, and then projects were started, new projects were started, the old projects came to an end, and again new. So it's a pipeline that we're talking about. And co-creating is super important. More than 27,000 people do co-create with us. We have more than 37,000 learners each year for our massive open online courses. And at the end, each year we support directly 361 startups. And our pipeline of startups is at the moment more than 4,000 startups in Europe that are approaching us during the last 5 years. So every year at the moment, it's close to 1,000 startups applying for our programs. And we've been touching on the food systems challenges at the beginning, and we want to overcome these challenges by bringing all the players together, and we guide and accelerate the innovation process. So that's one thing I want to mention as well. You need an enabler. That's super important to bring this acceleration on the ground. If you want to transform something, you need some kind of catalyst that helps you bring down the energy needed to speed up and make the product better than before. That's how we see us, as a catalyst for the food system. And there are social drivers that we have seen. And just to mention that 35% of the children under 5 are stunted, wasted, or overweight. And there is a study of a university in Würzburg, which is not directly linked to the food system, but very interesting to hear. They had a cohort of 100 kids underneath 6 years, and the only task they had was to go backwards on a red line. And more than 90% didn't manage to do so until the end, because the physical exercise was missing. A lot of them were overweight and they couldn't go backwards anymore. So this is really dramatic, because that's cost that we are producing with the lifestyle that we have. The food that we eat is not only individually bad, as we learn and see here, it's really creating a huge amount of social insurance costs that we all have to carry. Yeah, in Europe, it's all spread towards the population, and it gets more expensive every day. And this is something we need to break, this tendency. For the environmental things, I don't go in because we've seen this in the video and it's a no-brainer. So I think everyone who has not really understood that this is a driver we need to address needs to go to our courses. And the entrepreneurial sector is really underrepresented. I don't have the figures for the United States. I'm sorry, I only can give you figures for the European startup sector, and only 3.4% of all startups come from the food industry. So this is a low number. And then 90% of these startups fail due to lack of market needs. And you need startups in the system because they have this disruptive energy. They have this disruptive potential to generate new markets. Think about the smartphone 10 to 15 years ago. What this small thing has changed. At the beginning, you were doing texting, text messages, maybe looking to the internet. Now you do the whole banking stuff with it. You have your whole social contacts in it. And there are startups in the food sector that have this potential as well. And at the same time, the market is huge. It's old figures from 2016, sorry for that, but there it was already 200 billion in Europe alone for the agri-food sector by 2030. And if I have it in mind correctly, it almost doubled now because of the driving forces that change the markets at the moment, as said before. So, Alicia, you need to give me a sign if I'm over time already, but I think it's good. Okay. Let's dig deeper into entrepreneurship then. So we support innovative, impactful entrepreneurs and startups. So from the individual idea towards funded startups that deliver new food innovations and businesses across Europe. No, I don't go into detail in this startups that I've been showing here. They are prize winners of our program, and they're all available online. I want to point out that it's super important to have an offering that is really tailor-made for the startups. So we support startups in every step of the way, from market to validated business launches. So if you have an idea, you can come to us. If you have a startup that's already founded, you can come to us. We deliver you then business and tech validation, commercial capabilities, and upscaling. So all along the journey, what a startup needs can be available at EIT Food. And to go more concrete, in the entrepreneurship sector, we have 3 programs. We have 3 programs, one called Seedbed in the launch phase, one called EIT Food Accelerator Network, called Accelerate, and then the Rising Food Stars in the scale phase for really early ambitious scale-ups that have already paying customers and that are ready for sustainable and significant growth. Because that's something really important for the food sector and for the startups. Growing fast in the worldwide economy gives you an advantage, and that's where we aim for. Really, we are really looking for startups that have this disruptive power. And as a seedbed, we inspire and aspire entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. So if you have an idea, you can find support with us. And if you are registered, you do get a classical accelerator network all across Europe with 6 locations all around Europe, including Israel. And that's international scale is super important. It may be a startup from Austria that then has an accelerator week or 2 in Israel, exchanging already in this phase with international partners. Then Rising Food Stars is a group on its own. It's 50 to 70 startups every year. It's an in and out. So they grow in and they grow out of this association. And this association is part of EIT Food, so that the startups can be in a secure environment working together with the industry, for example. And this has changed, by the way, as well. It's still a business model that you found a startup and you sell it to the industry when it's mature enough. But now we see that I-height cooperation is more important, that it's growing more together, and it's the innovation really comes to the market and not the big ones buy the innovation, and then it's going away for the next 10 years, and then it pops up again. It really is, it is accelerated already. We can invest directly via a program called Access to Finance. So we have the trust of the European Union to invest taxpayers' money towards selected startups, and we only invest in selected startups that have been part of our programs. So the quality assessment is pretty high. And we have established corporate venturing activities. And this is a trend which is super important in Europe at the moment, that we bring together big corporates with startups on a thematic basis. So that the industry and universities and startups, they cannot solve the issues for the food system anymore alone. So we have thematic workshops together with them. And this is a program that we sell to the corporates, and it's 100,000 euros a year if you want to take part in corporate venturing activities as a company. And the corporates love it. It's really good because it has the pipeline behind, it has the thematic power, and it really accelerates. Let's go to a bit deeper level when we have the missions. I think that's for sure as identified points which are important. And underneath these missions, we have identified 6 areas where we believe in the next few years, so 5 to 7 years, a lot of things will happen. We have the area of protein diversification, so we talked about that already. The next area is targeted nutrition. So I'm addicted to M&Ms. That's a targeted nutrition, but it's not healthy, so that's not meant. It's about really, health-adjusted life years pay into here, and it's about getting information. If you have a tendency for high cholesterol, that you have the information available that makes you able to do the choice in the supermarket and to target your own health benefits. And then sustainable agriculture, reaching to the prayer, we need to have more systems in place which go to regenerative agriculture areas as well. And sustainable aquaculture. So we have a project where we, for example, have a startup that grows tuna on land. So you don't need to go fishing in the next 10 to 15 years anymore. You can have it cultured in a safe environment. So overfishing and the harm to the environment will not be any problem anymore. So that's the most positive view that we can have. Then digitalized traceability is super important. We touch base on this as well, and circularity of the food system. We believe these 6 areas will be our future path, and there will happen quite a lot. Economic impact, super important, as we are there to create an impact that is really beneficial for Europe as well, and for the startups and all players that we're in. So jobs created is one indicator, ventures created and investment raised. So you have seen the numbers a few slides before. So we measure what we do, and that's something super important. Then you can talk about the things again when you've measured them, and you can transport the message. When you look at the 6 areas now making the way towards the European frameworks that we're working in, it's the sustainable food system is based on input, and we think input in these 6 areas is super important, that we can deliver with our 350 partners and more. And then you see the knowledge triangle again. Innovation, working together with education, working together with business creation, including the consumer, is really something that has the potential to change the system that we have at the moment. And the public engagement, the green line all across the knowledge triangle, I think is one of the pillars that we have to really focus on public engagement, to talk to each other, to transport the message, and to repeat really to all stakeholders what we do. And this then pays into the Green Deal and to the farm to fork strategy of the European Union. And you can see here elements of the farm to fork strategy. This is directly one-to-one out of the regulation. You have the link down underneath the circle. So food loss and waste prevention, #1 goal. Sustainable food production, #1 goal. Sustainable food processing and distribution, #1 goal, and sustainable food consumption. And if you may remember our missions, and if you may remember the path that I've just shown, one-to-one shows that we are aligned to the farm to fork strategy. And this brings back the message that if there's regulation out there, this regulation changes markets, and these markets need to adapt. And one way to adapt to these new systems, to the regulations, is innovation. And innovation is one of the key elements which we foster, and we think it's the key solution to help us reach the transformation. So we have farm to fork targets until 2030, and we need to increase agriculture, fishery and aquaculture, greenhouse reduction targets to over 50%. So we're not ambitious enough at the moment. Yeah, we want to have a bigger reduction of greenhouse gas emissions until 2030. We want to have 25% of the whole land that's used for agriculture to be used for organic farming. That's a huge change, because you have seen maybe, or you may remember the slide of the startup that was doing weed control and organic farming. I think that's super important if you grow this sector. Then we need to reduce and change the way that we use antimicrobials used for farmed animals. So sometimes it's preventive application, and we need to really reduce that, because you can find it everywhere, in sea, in the sea, in rivers, even in the soil. And it all goes back to us at the end, because we consume what we produce. So that's super important. Then reduction of pesticides. I will show you a short video afterwards, this slide, which shows what can be done together in this knowledge triangle to reduce pesticides on the field, and then reduction of fertilizers as well. And it all comes down to one message in my perspective. It's we have to produce more with less input. And that's a huge effort that we're going to have in the future, but we are starting. And that's something as well I want to point out. We need to start. If you have not yet already done so, do it now. If you have an idea, if you have a cooperation idea, do it now. Don't hesitate. Do it now. Now is the time for change. Okay.
European farmers have to adapt. By 2030, they need to reduce their use of chemical plant protection by 50%, as well as their use of fertilizers by 20%. We believe that technologies, such as forecasting methods, robotics, precision farming, and AI solutions will support farmers in adapting to the challenges ahead. This is why we launched Digital Agriculture for Sustainable Food Systems, an EIT Food and LFL challenge powered by Siemens.
Digital Agriculture for Sustainable Food Systems is a challenge that will help you to test and validate your solutions on the ground to bring your agri-food innovation to the next level. In this year's edition, we're looking for solutions that will reduce the chemical input for plant protection.
In 3 soft landing sessions, you'll get the opportunity to further advance your solution. Here in Gustav van der Rot, Siemens and LFL will provide you with access to a makerspace, testing grounds, agronomic expertise, and contact to the right players in the field.
So what we've just seen is one example of a co-working environment that we have enabled in a really rural area in the eastern part of Bavaria, really rural, where Siemens had a production facility and Bavarian State Research Center for Agriculture has a facility. And we used that combination to start a startup challenge along the farm to fork strategy for reduction of pesticides. And it really was a challenge, not only as the name of the activity is, but it was a challenge, for example, to bring a state-funded organization like the Bavarian Research Center, a huge corporate and a startup together in a legal framework which everyone is happy about. And this is only working together with an enabler. And I think EIT Food was really the initiator, and at the end, it did work out. We had an international challenge. A startup from Switzerland did win this challenge. It's all available in the internet, by the way, who did win and what the technology was. But validation, access to work facilities, collaboration and community with other innovators, peer-to-peer environment, networking with all relevant players. So the Agricultural Ministry of Bavaria even did their innovation tour towards Rustov in the same timing. Visibility is super important. The startups need that. We need it. We all need to talk about the things that we do. The funding, 10,000 euros, not too bad for a startup. Mentoring on the place and access to testing grounds. That was the USPs of the challenge. And 50 startups applied. At the end, 3 were having the finals and 1 did win. So this is really a successful example of how to bring innovations on the field and to test it out. Coming slowly to the end, so we have a lot of activities that we do, more than 140 in 21, and I think in total more than 250 activities like project funding. I will only talk about 1 or 2 here. So this Schirrmacher, it's about bakery, and you see a lot of players in the bakery sector here, for example. So sugar-reduced biscuits and cakes that really meet the consumer sensory, because that's the most important thing. It needs to taste, naturalness, and cost expectation. So there's innovation projects that we do together with super good partners like Schirrmacher, Strauss, Boratos, and University of Reading, and added nutritional functionality. So it's even paying into your personal health. And then the digital marketplace for side streams, we've been talking about of the use of side stream. So that's the circular economy, and the resource stewardship accelerating side stream valorization and upcycling. So there's more on the webpage. Please take your time and look into that. It's worthwhile to look into that. So I won't leave you with a few trends in Europe. So this is the trends that we have identified, food trends in 2023. And you know, the conference of parties will happen again, and the pressure will mount for the decision makers to drive a sustainable food system. And this has changed as well. I think at the beginning, it was not as effective as it is now. Now the change really starts here as well. It's now to do it. And I think COP28 really will be a game changer. Meat alternative food products really will become more diverse. So we have a super successful product in Germany, which is a mixture of 50% beef and a mixture of 50% pea protein, and they taste like an original burger. So we're gradually going to meat alternatives, and the intermediate step will be needed until the economies of scale kick in for fermented, for example, for fermented products. And one side remark, maybe originally plant-based food will grow as well. That's a trend that we see, that people under 30 in Germany, 17% under 30 buy vegetarian only. So this is a trend, and then they will have more plant-based solutions. Targeted nutrition, we've talked about it, they will become more localized. So, and technology will improve for food system resilience. That's all of you and us responsible for fulfilling this top 5 trends, because we have all the capability. The value of food waste will be embedded throughout the food system, so circularity will be really the key that we are going to see in the next years to come. With that, let me finish. I hope that I could give you an information that is useful for you, and let's create the future of food together. If you're interested, become part of the community, share your ideas, and help us to transform the food system. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We do have a couple of questions that popped up in the chat, but I just wanted to remind everyone on the call here that feel free to add your questions or comments and we'll read through them. Or if you would like to raise your hand and ask questions and unmute yourself, we can do it that way too. So the first question that came in is do you work with any US organizations?
We are working together with John Deere, for example, and we are reaching out to several organizations in America right now. I cannot disclose it at the moment, but there will be information to come. We have now 5 years on our backs, and now we have a lot of things that can be shared as well with other countries and with other continents. And yes, we're reaching out to the US now, at the moment, so to say. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe as a follow-up to that, and we'll see where this goes. So suppose a US university would like to join EIT. Is there a process or an agreement, a fee? What would that look like?
That's a super good question. I think we need to have access for all universities out there that work on the food system transformation. And you would not be able to receive funding from the European Union. That's I think one caveat that we would have. But I would like to then make a direct connection to the CEO and to make it happen. If you're interested, drop me an email. I will try to catalyze this exchange, because it's necessary that we all work worldwide together. Yeah.
Right. Does EIT Food place limitations or enforce rules for your partners to make sure they remain aligned with your goals?
Yes, we do. So we have an impact pathway that we follow when we fund projects, for example, and we have intermediate project controls that measure the promised outcomes to the delivered KPIs. And we have innovation managers that follow up on the projects during the whole life cycle. And it's a really transparent process that we have, and we are following up on that. And it never does happen, to be honest, because people and organizations joining EIT Food share this common vision. So I've never experienced that they promised something and then they did do something totally different, because we would see at the first hand, and the community really has the same attitude.
All right. What other questions do we have? Jim, I see you unmuted yourself. What questions do you have?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to compliment you on your excellent presentation, and it's I think it's eye-opening to many of us who have not been aware of EIT and the many other things in Europe that are going on that are somewhat different, but also we're faced with the same problems that you have in the U.S. in Europe and here in the U.S. And I don't know to what extent you're familiar with what we're doing in the American Society of Agriculture and Biological Engineers. Alicia, I don't know whether that's been exchanged with them or not, but there is we're telling many of our members the same kinds of things, and working with other professional societies and with industries. Just getting started. We're way behind where you are with EIT in Europe, but we have a group of multiple disciplines, from various engineering disciplines to agricultural science and economics and behavioral sciences, working together to see how we can break down some of these silos or castles, as you call them. We don't have as many castles here as you do, but we certainly have a lot of silos here in the U.S. And so we would be very interested in exploring with you, at least, how the ASABE and other professional societies joint initiatives might collaborate with what you've learned and what you're doing there in Europe and EIT, as well as some of the other things that we know are going on there. Do you have any comments on that?
I think it would be highly appreciated that we have a kind of exchange afterwards to see how we can work together and how we start maybe one kind of a cooperation, and that we learn from each other is super important. I think you have so many peers out there that need to work together, and preaching this is doing is better. So let's try to set something up. Yes, really open to do so. We just need one to go for it and lead it, because there you need an enabler and a catalyst as well. Yeah, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions specifically about next steps? I mean, several of us on this in your webinar today are participating, in addition to Alicia and myself, with the ASABE and broader initiative. I keep saying ASABE, but it's really a number of professional societies. It's being led by ASABE. But what do you think would be a good next step?
I would see that we need to organize a meeting with our exec committee, maybe with Andy Singer, which, by the way, is American. So our CEO is American. So then I think we just meet up and talk about the things, and then we see if there can be a plan developed to foster collaboration between EIT and the organizations you would think suit best. Yes, that would be the pragmatic suggestion.
Well, no, I think that sounds good, and I think there could be maybe a number of people from not only ASABE but other people who would be interested in this. And as you presented your material, I think there are several very specific thrusts that you're doing, like on digital agriculture, and another one is food systems in general, and food waste, and processing into other products. But I think this kind of dialogue is needed, probably at the highest levels here. And I don't know exactly how to do this. We're just getting organized here in our professional society. We're creating a new council and a new cross-discipline, including external collaboration approach. But it would be good to connect with you somehow and learn how this could be broadened to include some of the things that you're doing there. We have a lot to learn from you, I think.
Yeah, I can even ask Andy when I see him the next time, when he next time is in the US. So maybe he finds it convenient just to drop you a visit. Yeah. But I need one contact that I can address, and then I will try to sort this out.
Okay, let me check with several people here, and we could send you a point of contact. And if there's any other information that you would like in terms of what we're doing, we could of course send that to you too, in terms of presentation material or notes or papers or something like that. But I think it would be mutually beneficial. Even though we're just getting started, there's a lot of enthusiasm here, also from farmer groups. You mentioned farmer-led, keeping farmers. We agree with that.
Yeah, any material that helps us to prepare the upcoming meeting, I think, will help us then to identify the complementarities faster. So that's good. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Well, I'll get a few of us together, and maybe we can get something to Alicia to share with you, or if we have your contact information, we could do that as well. Okay, that's all I had. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you very much.
I see a couple of other people turned on their cameras. Do you have any additional comments that you would like to add to that? Or questions?
No, Jim covered a lot of things that I was thinking about. So excellent presentation. I look forward to seeing what we can come up with.
All right, I have one last question that popped up. We are approaching the top of the hour, so let's have this one. How has your relationship with the UK changed with them leaving the EU?
That's an interesting question. So, as there's a lot of expertise in the UK, on the one hand, it was a kind of a drawback when the UK decided not to be part of the European Union. And on the other hand, the drivers behind this cooperation, like the universities and the industry, they decided, and now we stay with EIT Food even closer, because they needed the contact to European Union to not lose any momentum. I think that was the key, that they stayed tuned in the areas in the ecosystem that they were active with. And then the government of the UK decided in 22, for example, that they step in. So every euro that we would invest in a project would be covered with a scheme that is then funded by the UK government. So this was going much better than expected, to be honest, and it didn't hinder us to do cooperation. That's maybe the base message, that it was going well. On the economic perspective of the UK and the economic things, it's not part for today's discussion, but it was more severe. Yeah. But for the innovation part, it was not as bad as expected. It goes on really well at the moment. We have a regional office in the UK still, so. Yeah.
All right, well, we are at the top of the hour. So I want to thank you all for your participation today, and a special thank you to our speaker, Dr. Georg Schirrmacher. My co-moderator and ASABE Director of Membership, Sarah Rodriguez, as well as several others that helped make this member hour a reality. We have added a bonus webinar to this series. So our next webinar with a focus on circular systems will be in just under 2 weeks on Wednesday, June 14th, again at 1 p.m. Eastern. We will have Rob Zemenchik from CNH Industrial discussing methane power as a sustainable circular solution from agricultural biowaste. The sessions in this series will be available on YouTube via the ASABE CBS website. If you are further interested in connecting with others and growing the circular bioeconomy systems movement, we hope that you will join us at the CBS Day event held in Omaha, Nebraska on July 9th. You can find more information about this meeting on ASABE's meeting registration page. And again, thank you all for your time and participation today, and we look forward to hosting you again in future ASABE events.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.